We rely on these invisible signals for pretty much everything, but none are more important than the ones that connect us to help in a real emergency. Today, we're going to talk about a critical vulnerability in our public safety network, radio frequency interference, or RFI. It's this invisible threat that can literally silence our most vital lifelines right when we need them the most. Okay, let's dive into this. So, just to give you some context, what we're covering here is part 5 of a 10-part tutorial called Invisible Interference: How Radio Frequency Interference Affects Your Everyday Life. Now, this is all part of a public awareness campaign by RFI detectives, and it's built on some really solid research from Bob Slovic, who's the chief technologist at Virtualization Options LLC. And this whole series, it's really designed for you, the media professionals, to get a handle on how this problem can range from just a minor annoyance for your audience all the way to something that prevents a first responder from being able to do their job and serve the public. I mean, really think about that for a second. You make the most important call of your entire life, and on the other end, there's just silence. This isn't some hypothetical what-if scenario. It is a very real risk created by the very real problem of radio frequency interference.
All right, so to really understand the risk here, we first have to understand the system that's actually at stake.
Every single day, first responders are trusting their lives and our lives to these radio networks. They're the invisible threads that coordinate every single emergency response you can imagine. But these systems, the ones we all just assume will work, are operating in an increasingly hostile and, frankly, crowded, invisible environment. So what do these networks actually look like? Let's break down the technology that's supposed to be keeping our communities safe. Okay, so public safety communications basically operate on two main tiers. On one hand, you've got FirstNet. It's the modern, dedicated broadband network. It has some protection built in, but, and this is a big but, it's not invincible, especially when someone is deliberately trying to jam it. But then on the other hand, you have what are called P25 legacy systems. Now, here's the crucial part. These older systems handle the vast majority of the day-to-day radio chatter for local police and fire departments, and they are way more vulnerable because they're often operating on crowded public frequencies with less sophisticated gear, which makes them a much easier target for disruption.
And this image right here just brilliantly illustrates why. Look at this map of the radio frequency spectrum. It's exactly like a massive, invisible highway system. And you can see that the dedicated lane for emergency responders is just this tiny little slice surrounded by all this other crazy traffic. So when signals from those other lanes start to bleed over, or worse, when someone intentionally blocks the road, that emergency lane can get shut down completely. And that brings us to the deliberate threats. We're not just talking about accidental noise anymore. We're talking about intentional disruption. So the key thing to understand is this device, a cellular jammer. It's illegal, and it basically acts like a sledgehammer. Instead of targeting one specific signal, it just screams overpowering radio noise across a huge band of frequencies. What it does is create a total communication dead zone for pretty much anyone in its radius. And the consequences of that? Well, they're terrifyingly real. In a rural area that only has one cell tower, a single jammer can cause a complete blackout. In a city, you could be talking about thousands of calls that just can't get through. It means disrupting that constant radio chatter that police and fire crews need to coordinate. And yes, it absolutely means that your 911 call could just be dropped right into that silence. And make no mistake, using one of these devices is a federal crime. The FCC and law enforcement take this incredibly seriously. They are actively hunting down and prosecuting the people who operate them because they understand the life-or-death stakes involved. So, how does all of this become a story that needs to be told? Well, this is where you, as media professionals, really come into the picture. There is a quote from the source material that just says it all. There is this massive gap between how much this invisible interference can affect our safety and how little the public actually knows about it. Look, this is not just some niche tech story. It's a public safety story. It's about explaining why a 911 call might not go through, or why a fire crew might lose communication at the most critical moment. Explaining this to your community through your reporting and through public safety alerts is a fundamental act of public service. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. This technology is invisible, its failures are silent, and the consequences? They can be catastrophic. If the people whose job it is to inform the public don't tell this story, who will?